Cecilia Tham. I live in Barcelona. I am actually Chinese American, so I've been going to different places, living in different places. Right now, this moment in time, I am a social technologist, which means that I work between the intersections of social impact with a business model, but driven by technology. My dream keeps changing, but I am very much about, I feel that I have been very privileged with everything that has been given to me and all the opportunities I've had. And I think, if anything, my dream would be how I can return these privileges to those who are born less fortunate. So that would be my guiding light. We live in a world that is very much driven by capitalism, and so everything is, from education all the way to our job, all the way to how we consume, all is driven by economic and money. This is how we operate as a society. And so having a goal that isn't currently the goal, meaning helping other people, having social values, those things, they don't necessarily always align with, making money, because those are two parallel trains, right? So some of the hardest challenges is, how can you create value in that? How can you convince others that there's value in that? How can we convince others that if we don't change the way we consumed and how we change the operation of the society, how that's going to impact the future generation? So a lot of my work is about making those values visible to others, whether it is economically, social, or other values that we need to start prioritizing. One of the biggest challenge is that we are, let me come from this from another angle. We are very much a labeled society, right? By labeled means that, like, very quickly we, see each other and we say, oh, she's a girl. Oh, she's, single, or she's, mother, or she is, whatever label that we start attaching to these people. And when I moved to Spain, those labels became very obvious, because I am obviously not from here, and I stood out. The turning point was that when those labels started to affect me, because I start seeing myself as a victim, like, oh, poor me, I'm, a woman in a man's world, I am a minority in a very white society. That started to affect me, to think of who I am and my worth, right? But it all changed when I realized that I can't actually change the way people see me, but I can change the way I see myself. Meaning that if I flip those labels for myself, then I can use those to my advantage. So instead of seeing me as a minority, as a disadvantage, I start seeing myself, no, I'm actually international. Instead of seeing myself, as Chinese in a white society, I'm thinking myself as being unique. So giving value to the things that I previously thought has no value, or as actually a disadvantage, gave me strength as an entrepreneur. And so when in the big picture, when I was saying about us looking at and assigning values to social benefit, is exactly the same mentality, but in a much bigger scheme and much larger scale. And that worked for me. And now, if you flip those labels, whether it's an individual or even as a society, then you can start seeing and understanding those hidden and underlying value, and how you can communicate across to other people. So you have to actually start from within and bring those outwards. So that's what I find. When I see even the smallest act or the smallest event or whatever, the tiniest thing that I have done have changed, someone else's trajectory of life for the better. And I remembered when we opened FabCafe, which is this coffee shop with 3D printers. I remembered seeing a retired gentleman in a wheelchair coming to visit, and he stood up from his wheelchair and he hovered over the 3D printer and he was looking at it, and he was so, you can see that his eyes lit up. And I realized at that moment that we have very often forgotten about a lot of people in the society, the people in the edge of the society, those that are retired, those that are handicapped. Those people wanted to be connected as much as the rest of us, and they wanted to learn as much as the rest of us. And when I saw his eyes lit up, I realized that there's this whole group of people that we have ignored that wants to learn about these new technologies that have no place to learn or experience, and we have given this platform for them to see it and to experience it and to connect to it. And that was really that was like a revealing moment to me, like, wow, we haven't just opened a coffee shop with 3D printers. We have woken someone up from within that they could connect to the society of today, which is very much interlaced with technology. So those little moments like that, we have a lot of those. We've seen a lot of those. We have created open co-working spaces where we see people interact. We see companies building from those interactions. We see benefits that are built up among communities that would have not met or wouldn't have that capability or an empowerment than before. And all those things for me are the driving force. And so one of the reasons why now I'm a social technologist is because I'm thinking, well, how can I scale that up? So within a community, that's a community scale. Well, how can I scale that up in a global scale? Can technology actually help me scale the social impact in a much bigger, impactful way? And these are the kind of questions that I'm asking myself today. The 3 learnings. Okay, so one would be the one that I mentioned before. You can't change the world, the way the world sees you, but you can change the world you see yourself. And once you've able to transmit that yourself, then you can influence that outward. So that was one major learning. 2 is that the world is moving super fast. So this whole kind of notion of like, we're going to study one thing and we're going to dedicate the rest of our life doing this one thing that doesn't work anymore. We're going to very quickly transfer into a skill-based society, not a credential-based society. So the more skills that you can learn, the more agile you will be in the workforce. Especially right now, there's a lot of topic about robots taking over and stuff. So I think in the future of education and the future of labor, we will need to kind of change our way and understanding where we are within that framework. And so I studied biology, I studied design, I worked as an entrepreneur, and those things allowed me, which is the third thing that I would suggest, is that one of the key skill that I have learned is the ability to connect the dots in things that seemingly aren't related, and those things will allow you to innovate in a much faster way that you have never been before. So to sum up, seeing the value from within, understanding that in the future you need to be equipped with skills, and the third thing is being able to synthesize these things that are apart. Those are the 3 learning that in my lifetime is going to change in the generation that's going to come, but these are the 3 things that I think are the most important. What do I need? Oh, that's a good question. It sounds kind of strange saying it, is I need more self-confidence, because the nature of my work and the nature of what I do they're not proven, they're not validated, I'm not an expert in anything, because I'm a synthesizer, I go wide and I go broad and I go very diverse. I don't have a PhD in engineering, for example. I don't have, an MD in medicine, but nor have I ever actually have a degree in artificial intelligence. But I need to know all of those things to be able to connect, well, how can I apply AI in the medical field? How, with, a hardware that could be helping the patient. I need to know just enough to be able to synthesize, but I don't know enough to be an expert, right? So there's this conflict inside me that says, well, I'm not an expert, but I'm talking about these things as if I am. So I need to build up, while I'm not an expert in anything, I should allow myself or admit that I could be an expert in the synthesis of these things, and I'm still lacking that, and that's creating a barrier from what I do and what I think I can do and what I actually can, like my performance basically. There is this looming fear in me that because a couple of things, right? One thing is that we're becoming this overwhelming, social connected digitally beings, meaning that we're like always looking for the likes. We're always looking if someone have seen our videos. We're seeking those digital rewards left and right. Why is, for example, the Kardashian more famous than, or making more money than Malala, for example, right? And Malala is making much more social impact and it's creating much more value to the society, whereas, the Kardashian is not so much, in my opinion. So I'm afraid that if we don't start instilling true values and true priorities in the future, we might be down the wrong path. Meaning that we shouldn't be driven by money only, we shouldn't be driven only by fame or likes. We should be driven by passion, we should be driven by motivation, by a collective whole. So like not only that I'm doing well, but that the society as a whole is doing well. And at some moment there's going to be, and I think it's kind of happening, that there's going to be a diversion. There's this world that is very privileged, very prosperous, and then there's this world that is going to be left behind. And we're seeing that right now, and I'm afraid if we don't do anything right now, we might be too late. We might even be too late in terms of, global warming, climate, like how far are we thinking in terms of this impact? And anyone with kids would think like, well, what are we going to do for the future generation? And I feel like there's not enough people pushing those discourse right now, and we need more people to do that. We need the future generations to think that way as well.